Welcome to another
Uh,
episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. Incredible experts the world over with absolutely amazing insights, incredible backgrounds. They've usually been through some sort of personal journey. They're definitely giving service to others. We have New York Times bestsellers, Oprah Super Soul Sunday 100 guests or 100 teachers, and also Super Soul Sunday show guests. We had a White House physician to the US president, the youngest Delta Force operator ever admitted to the Delta Force. He's a naturopath on the side, and many more other very diverse folks from about 20, 25 countries. So it's a great group. They really do come on the show, something that a lot of people might not catch if they only watch the first 40 minutes to an hour. A lot of guests take steps towards the end of the show. I'll blow them lit sage through two screens. You can smell it. They often take steps with angels, Native American chiefs, figures from India. It gets wild. Some people are really groovy, gung ho, and they do it all. It's very fun. Today, we have a super exciting guest from Melbourne, Australia area. I believe it's Melbourne. Absolutely wonderful. He and I met years ago. I have said many times since then, he has the greatest laugh of all time. Amrit Sandhu is here with us. He's the show host of Inspired Evolution. He's a life coach, transformation coach, engineer as well, but dad, father, husband, and there's more. His channel has grown to, I think, at least 94,000 subscribers or so, 5.4 million views total, which means it's big. It's getting there. No channel owner that I've ever met, though, is ever satisfied with that. So I know he's got to be thinking, when is he hitting the million mark and the rest? Amrit, welcome from Australia. Welcome to Angels Positivity and Love. You are just so fantastic. I think people are going to pick up on your energy super fast. Welcome to the show.
oh, touch wood, Michael. Thank you so much for such a glowing introduction, and it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me, brother. It is, yeah, really excited as always. It's a real treasure and a pleasure and a treat to connect with you. Least of all for the joy that is your vibe. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
And just for the audience to know, I mean, I think they figured this out. Most guests come in laughing, and there's a reason. I'm telling them dad jokes, and I'm not giving them a chance to recover as we hit record and start the show. So it's not fair, but it's also fun.
It's
Um,
great.
Amrit, there's something called spirituality, consciousness, evolution for man. Something's been happening. Is it an awakening? How do you want to describe this? Or do you want to back up and go to, how did you even know about any of this in the first place? Was it when you were 5, you started reading
Hmm.
sacred texts? Was it when you were in your high school years, or was it just 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's two parts to that response. The first one is I grew up, well, I'm Sikh by faith, and so I grew up in an Indian culture and a family. So spirituality, metaphysics is something, especially being my parents being from the Indian subcontinent and me being the first generation that was born outside of India here in Australia. And part of a very small family. Like the pod was just mum, dad, and myself. So every year they'd fly me back to India, and they just put me on a plane, unaccompanied minor, and the rest of my family, which was like 50 odd of them, would pick me up from the airport and, take me home, and I'd be with the tribe to speak, and then get put on a plane at the end of, and then put back here. And so I'd spend a month or two over in India every year. So I saw India as this time lapse photograph. And like it's like little things, yeah. So bits of wisdom, like I was probably I can't even put a frame to it. Maybe six is that? And this is just to give an example. So, my grandfather's talking to me about, oh, so India and Pakistan are like two countries divided now. And Punjab, the state that we're from, is also half in India and half is Pakistan. Like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, why is that the case? And I was like, "Oh, my dad's told me this one." Yeah. And so my granddad, who like I didn't like, it wasn't really a test, but it kind of was. He was like hoping to impart a piece of wisdom on a 6-year-old. Yeah. Maybe I was 5, and in there I was like, and I gave the response my father had taught me. Probably when I was as early as 3. Yeah. He goes, the basically we had one of the first guru that we had in the Sikh faith. We've got 10 gurus, and the 11th guru being the living, breathing text, which is our sacred text. And the first guru, once he transitioned on, they didn't know what to do with his body because he didn't set up a faith. He didn't set up we didn't have rites and rituals pertaining to the faith. And so at that time, the largest contingent of followers that he had were Hindus and Muslims, and he'd unified them, right? And so the Hindus were like, oh, we've got to burn the body because we cremate. And the Muslims are like, we've got to bury the body because we bury, right? And so there was this real, what do we do with the body? Because we want to honor it one way, and the others want to honor it another way, right? So who's right, who's wrong, which is the right approach? And so the wisdom that was imparted, they asked, the spiritual leaders at the time, and they said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put the body on an altar. Um, Both parties are going to bring their flowers, bring whatever flowers you want. Bit of competition vibes. Bring whatever flowers you want, and whoever's flowers don't last the longest, the Baba, they call them, the Baba, the guru, belongs to them, and we'll do that tradition's rights and honors. And so pursued the activity. So they went ahead, do the activity, and the experiment. The flowers are there, and what happens is flowers remain. Days later, bodies disappeared. Sheet remains, and the sheet that was covering the I don't know what to call the Baba's body, but yeah, the Baba's body remains. And so, unfortunately, the wisdom that they had at the time was, okay, well, I guess we've just got a sheet, and we'll just cut the sheet in half, and you can burn your sheet half, and we can bury our half. And ergo, the land that is the land of the Sikhs, Punjab, half went to India, belonging to the Hindus, and half went to the Muslims, belonging to like an Islamic country, right? Pakistan. And so in there, you're looking at like 3 to 5, like this, and I'm making it sound like, oh, this is something special. This is how Indian kids are raised. Yeah, metaphysics influencing like the 3D is, and the world we live in, and story and mythology, and how it all weaves into our day-to-day experience, karma, the laws of the universe. It's all part of just how we're raised. So in that way, and I told my granddad the response, and I remember him looking at me going, and I could see in that moment, I look back now and I go, oh, he was proud of his son having taught his son the things that he would have wanted to teach his son's son. Like there was this continuity, touch wood, that was really beautiful to witness, because it was almost like my son went to Australia. Is he teaching my grandson the right thing, sort of vibe? But yeah, and that's just a really easy way to illustrate the point. That yeah, metaphysics is part of everything. Growing up in an Indian family, as is spirituality, as is the laws of karma. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding that people have looking from the outside in of Indian spirituality, but yeah, we can discuss that to length. And then the other piece, that was early on, and then the other piece was further down the line, which is probably around 2-3 years before the Inspired Evolution was birthed. In around just after I'd sort of been diagnosed with depression and recovered from it, thanks to meditation, I started to notice that before that, it was probably about a decade ago, there weren't that many, and this is not a great way to describe this, but the low-hanging fruit, there was like a lot of organic food stores, organic chicken shops, organic things. Like before there was one in each suburb, right? Like here in Melbourne. But then they just started to pop up. There was a couple in each suburb, and there was like a store that was, and so there was like 3 or 4 in each suburb. And I was like, what's happening? Like, am I becoming, and I remember at the time I was asking people questions on the podcast, like, is there more of these places, or am I just, my reticular activation system, just more aware of these places? Like, what's happening? And lo and behold, being in the echo chamber of the Inspired Evolution, you obviously run a risk of seeing a certain select bias. But it's happening. It's happening. You're just seeing, and not that organic food is an indicator of spirituality, but I think it's one of the signs and symptoms of hey, people are tuning into wellness. People are tuning into their deeper self, and they're trying to nourish the body temple. They're being more and more aware. Yoga is everywhere, and there's all these little bits and pieces that are starting to come into the fore. The fact that we can have a conversation like this, the kinds of conversation that are happening on the Inspired Evolution, your show, the angels, my goodness, I just feel like there's more and more receptivity. So over the last decade, I didn't really feel like that was oh, consciousness is expanding. I didn't really know that was what That's not what I would have called. I would just said like, oh, more and more people are waking up is the language that I would use. Probably because of all the coaching from Eckhart Tolle, right? That waking up conversation is very present. But yeah, now tuning into some of the people that I've interviewed, it's like, oh, that is the expansion of consciousness, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like we can label it that as well. But I do feel more and more people are generally waking up, and it's not all roses. Like I think part of it is it's also one of the stats that drives me and everything I do is also this: one in two people are anxious or depressed 2025. And it's like, what the like one in two have experienced anxiety or depression in their lifetime come the year 2025 around the planet. And that is like a like mental health epidemic, right? Like that is intense. And the more I interview people in the spirituality lane, psychology lane, philosophy lane, there does seem to be this, it's not unanimous, but there does seem to be more and more of a consensus that's sort of pointing to the fact that it is a dearth of spirituality, and people are starting to wake up to, awaken to their spirit, because there's only so much the mind and the mental can capacitate, and yet we're stretching that to its nth degree, and also it's coming up against barriers and left wanting nonetheless, and it can land in spirit, and hence why spirituality and more people are waking up.
Mm, beautiful. Okay, you mentioned meditation. You picked up on that. I'm gonna guess, is this like 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago?
So meditation, yeah, it's been more than a decade now.
Okay.
Jeez, it's been, yeah, I feel old when when I say that. Yeah, it's been a long time meditating. Yeah, so I was prescribed antidepressants to navigate my way through depression. I took my first one. It was amazing. I was like, whoa, I can feel like this. Like did a whole bunch of stuff that I was like, pertinent to get done, hadn't gotten done in ages, cleaned my room, sorted out paperwork, did all this stuff. I was back in uni back in those days, and then and then I came down like 4.5 hours later,
Mm.
and I remember going, "Whoa, I'm not sure I want to live on this crutch-led roller coaster ride vibe thing." I was like, and this is a massive asterisk and disclaimer here. Like, for some people, absolutely SSRIs, like I'm a life coach, you need them because you've got chemical imbalances. They're totally a tool. I do think they're overprescribed, but that's just my personal opinion. My big message in my heart is that your health is your purpose and your purpose is your health, right? When you're out of alignment with your purpose, your mental health, and then everything downwind from mental health is struggling, right? And I thought I was the only person that was carrying this message. It's an ancient message. Yeah. The whole science of Ayurveda lives, which is, yoga lives within Ayurveda, lives to facilitate your dharma, which is you're here for a reason. Live that reason. Yeah. How do we understand our dosha, our makeup, so that you can do what it is that you're here to do in the time that you're alive? It's exactly the same message. Health is purpose. Purpose is health. So for me, taking that bill, and I was like, whoa, but then I was like, boof, and I was like, oh, I was like so intimidated. I literally picked up the box, and I remember just going cautionary, like just dropping it in the bin. I can go back to that room, and I just dropped it in the bin, and I was like, and it was weird because that was my only lifeline at the time. I'd just been diagnosed with depression, but I had a Thai doctor and a Persian psychologist. So the psychologist gave me that, but the Thai doctor, in her infinite wisdom, was like, "Oh, I used to do some mental health work. Here's a breathing exercise," and so she gifted me this mindfulness practice. And at the time, I scoffed. It was soft. I was like, "Breathing, come on, woman." And then I applied it. Lo and behold, situation came up where I applied it, and having applied it, I was just like, it blew me away that very first moment. Oh, I can also take myself back there. I'll never forget it. Like I was anxious and the walls were closing in, and as I was breathing, the walls were literally breathing back out, and I was like, "What the is going on here?" Like, and I just kept breathing in the wall, and like I was in a corridor, and it literally felt like a football field for a moment, and I was like, "All thanks to breath," like, and that just started this deep rabbit hole journey of like mindfulness, and then 12 months later, that just go, "Oh, mindfulness is just a form of meditation." Whoa, meditation, whoa, and mindfulness gives you the opportunity to sort of look at all the tabs that are open on your browser, whereas meditation gives the opportunity to defrag stuff on your PC, So yeah, it's been an incredible journey since then, and it's been the way I share it from stage is I say meditation reconstituted my life. You know how you reconstitute juice with water? Yeah, meditation reconstituted my life.
When did it jump for you to even more than that? Deeper spiritual experiences? Were you getting any light on your shut eyes meditating? Were you actually going places? Was it dream time? Can you share sort of the next evolution on your path?
Yeah, so one of the meditations that came to me was a yoga nidra meditation that actually goes for like a whole hour. And there were experiences, sitting in the temple prior, and we call it Gurdwara. Um, but sitting in the temple sounds super pro, doesn't it? But sitting in the Gurdwara, sitting in the Gurdwara, and just connecting. And we have like service regularly, so sitting and just feeling connected, touch wood, to some degree. Um, but I remember the yoga nidras because the yoga nidra practice, like lying there, it would guide me in through certain places, certain journeys. And I can share the link with you after the show if people want to tune into that specific yoga nidra. It hasn't had a lot of views. It's like 7,500 views, and I swear probably 3,000 of those are mine. Um, but it's an incredible guided journey, and it actually takes you along on a metaphysical journey where it invites you into different realms of consciousness, and then you knock on different doors, you step into different places, and you meet different people. Not too dissimilar to the work that you encourage, but a bit more in like a meditative trance out sort of state. And that was cool because that started to afford insights, like relationary insights. Like I could relate to, I was meeting somebody and it was like, oh, you're meeting yourself 5 years from now. What does your 5-year future self have to say to you now? And it's like, oh wow, it's actually all good. Don't stress so much. You figured it out. Like I know you're going through a lot right now, but this is just an example. But this is all part of the transformative fire in the process. And it's like, oh no shit, yeah right, okay, cool. That's good to know. And you just walk with a different level of resilience, right? Um, but then also just in meditation in general, sometimes taking in a question and then not really knowing who's giving you the answer back, but popping back out with an answer was also really trippy as well. So those are the, I think those are the few little places where my highest value, now that I do values work for people, it's a big cornerstone of aligning their life to where they want to go, is connection. Yeah, and so connection means everything to me. It's like connection to you, connection to the trees, connection to my body, connection to my workouts, connection to my breath, connection to my journal, connection to the organization in my mind, connection to my toes, how well I can spread them. Connection to my God. Connection to, so connection is really where, yeah, I can see myself more and more. And that was an opportunity to sort of see, okay, like I can feel more connected to, I don't know what, but I'm getting, there's a dialogue happening and I'm connecting, touch wood. And that's where I feel like the response to your question, when did you feel like it was going deeper? When the connection was getting deeper, touch wood. And it wasn't just so much about me sitting in my practice. It transformed into more of a dialogue with the universe.
I pulled a quote out to describe how I think you help others. So I'm going to read that quote, but then we're going to ask literally, how do you help others? Can you describe what got you inspired to do Inspired Evolution, the show? How has your practice evolved? What's like one of the most super fun parts of it? Is it a workshop, the retreat every year? Here's the quote though that I found that I wanted to read. A healer helps people find the courage within themselves to progressively become more of whoever it is they are at any given moment. They will come more and more into their essential beingness. And to me, that
Mm.
is what you do for folks. I saw that because I was looking for something. I was like, I need a quote. And that I said, bingo, that's what Amrit does for folks. Okay, now in
Yeah.
your own words, you get to go for a long time here. All evolved, and how did you get inspired?
Wow, that is yeah, really nice to feel into the depths within which you're feeling into what it is that I'm so inspired to be a part of in the world and want to see more of in the world. Absolutely. Yeah, the it's interesting that you use the word healer. Let's start with that because, the description being, facilitating more and more of people's own potential and, what's in the way and removing that and sort of going, okay, if that's what's removed, what is the chart and the course forward? What is it that, your soul really wants? Because our personality easily corrupted, I find, by external influences, society at large, so much marketing going on in the world. Capitalism in general is designed to help people consume, and so it'll hijack you to consume, and your personality is what's being hijacked. But your soul, rest assured, is incorruptible. Yeah. And so in there, but your soul did sign up for, I'm here to learn some stuff. I'm here to, want to do some stuff in this particular lifetime. And that's where this crisis of meaning that we hear about collectively is happening at the moment. There's a crisis of meanings because your personality has been hijacked. Yeah. And I say this in my coaching, and I don't mean it. It's probably the thing that I'm most cautious about saying at certain points, because it sounds disempowering, and I'm all for empowerment, really, is the big piece. It's like, you're a soul. There's way more going on here. And yet I find myself saying at times, did you stand a chance? And this is really just me talking to your personality, not your soul, right? Did your personality stand a chance? You walk down the supermarket aisle, let's say, and there's all these airbrushed photos of this is what you need to do to your nose, this is what you need to do to your eyebrows, this is what you need for your armpits, this is what you need for your face. Like, there's all this stuff, and it's like, this look like this, and it's like, that's not real. Like, that's airbrushed, but in your subconscious, that's what's going on. This is what you need to look like. This is what you need to look like. This is what you need. And it's actually like just the shopping aisle, and it's really full on. So all of that to say, it's really easy for our personality to get hijacked, and it is getting hijacked, and it's hijacked in order for us to consume. And yet we have the opportunity now to create our reality. And I think those are sort of polarities: consumerism versus creatorhood, right? So consciously creating your life. But you could almost argue your soul is already like part of that creator journey, and it's creative and it's doing its thing. It's just a matter of removing what's in the way and then just kind of going, oh, I can see actually what my soul wants to do. And for some people, it's like they can't see. And that's generally where my coaching lives. It's like, what is it that my soul really wants to do in this lifetime? And how do I align my personality to facilitate that flow? And that's the name of the book that I'm writing. It's called Meta Flow. So flow from a metaphysical, like larger scope of life. It's like, yes, flow, like, the Stephen Kotler conversation. It's like, if I hack my set aside distractions, hack my neuroreceptors, I can actually like boom, 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 get stuff done and feel really good in the moment. But there's other things where I'm like speaking on stage and I drop into flow. I'm doing podcasts like this and I'm dropping into flow. Yeah. And it's like, what is that flow? Like, yes, I'm in a flow state, but then also, how do I zoom out just a couple of layers further to kind of go, how do I orchestrate my life so that I become a podcaster, so that I become a coach, so that I become a public speaker, so that I'm dropping into more and more of these flow states by design, and that I'm living life in flow to what it is that I was put here to do. And it's not by accident that I drop into flow in these tasks. Yeah. I drop into flow because that's what the universe wants to see itself experiencing itself as me doing. Did that make sense? Because the cornerstone fundamental philosophy that, I'm building everything that is the inspired evolution coaching upon, and hopefully everybody's on board with this. And if you're not, then that's fine. It's just, this is not going to be the body of work for you, which is, we are the universe looking in on itself. Yeah. And so it's a really trippy dippy experiment. But the fundamental thread that we can draw through that is, maybe you can't deduce a lot of things, but me as the engineer wants a couple of hypotheses, a couple of things to draw upon, a couple of things to figure out, right? One of the things I can say, and I think we can agree on, is whatever the universe is doing, it's looking in upon itself. Why? Whoa, so many questions. How is it doing it? What is consciousness? What is it, trying to experience? But ultimately, you can deduce that curiosity at that level is sacred. Yeah, like you've got this thing called a sacred curiosity, like because the universe is looking on itself. Why? Like, but I don't know why, but it is curious about itself, right? So curiosity, name of the faith, seeks are here to learn, right? So, and your curiosity is a fundamental fabric of you being able to learn, right? Fundamental foundation stone. So the key thing in there is, you are the universe looking at itself. Your curiosity is sacred. And your soul wants to experience that. It's curious about that. And yet you get hijacked with all this stuff of like, hey, do this instead. What about this? Get a good degree, like get good grades. Like, school was designed current day school was designed for factory workers, but a lot of us are meant to be entrepreneurs, online creators, coaches, speakers, authors. School's not designed to facilitate that for you, right? So we get hijacked. Yeah. And that's the hijack. So tapping back into your innate curiosity, your sacred gift, your sacred curiosity, kind of going, what is my soul here for? And allowing the stories to unpack. Yeah. And sort of, and there's a lot of healing in there. There's a lot of trauma work in there. It's interesting because I do identify as a coach because I do recognize that most healers and therapists are looking at your past. Yeah. And coaches are generally helping you look at the future. And I jestingly say this, but I sort of say, and I shouldn't say this, but I jestingly say, it's a joke, pardon me, that your past, your therapist is here to give you depression and your coach is here to give you anxiety. And that old mate Eckhart Tolle is here to just bring you back into the present moment and just relax, right? But that's the realm of the coach. But there's so much of overbleed, as you can sort of see when you get into the depths of this work to try and support people to kind of get where they want to get to. And it's not where their personalities want to get to, which is sure. That's usually where most people come to me. They've played the personality game quite a bit. They're type A, they're high achievers, they've achieved a lot. And they've kind of gotten to the point where it's like, I'm tapping on the glass ceiling or the bamboo wall or whatever it is. Like I can just feel tonk, tonk, tonk. Like there's like, I can keep doing this, but I'm not getting any greater levels of satisfaction out of this. Something's wrong. It was like, if nice house, then happiness. If able to travel 6 months of the year, then joy and abundance. If this, then that. And it's like this ifing and thenning, like the formula's broken. Like I can't just keep going after more things to look for a state and a feeling. It's broken down. Like this isn't working anymore. So what is it? And it's like, well, you're coming from a place of the mind, and everything is what is being programmed into you. You're hijacked to believe if BMW or if, nice house or if living in this particular location is right for you. Like, just relax. Like, let's have a look at what it is that your soul really wants to emanate and experience in this lifetime. And that's where meaning comes in. That's where fulfillment comes in. It's a deep journey. That's usually why it's one-to-one coaching. Most people that have built an online profile and presence are like, let's build something scalable so I don't have to spend so much time, working with people. I'm just a kooky kind of guy. I really like diving in deep one-on-one. And I've tried to keep my rates as affordable as possible. And so we go all the way in, and it's generally, it starts off as generally about 5-month journey. And then, we continue further from there if required. But we dive in deep. It's one-on-one. You bring your whole self to the sessions. We unpack. We go deeper. One of the fundamental places to start along that journey that we go into, and this is where the engineer meets the spiritual guide that I guess I am. In there is your values. Yeah, getting really clear on your values, because the key thing is you've got this bedrock of your soul, and the interface between soul and personality, the purest interface, the unhijacked version, is your values. You can't fake what you value. And your values are what you value, and also what the value is that the world gets from you. It works from both sides. So it's really special. Yeah. And I know it sounds super like chalk and cheese, salt and pepper, like values, bro. And it's like, yeah, I know, but it goes all the way in. So for me, my values are connection, contribution, celebration. And if those that are tuning in want to find out their values, inspiredevolution.com/values, 20 minutes from now, there's a masterclass there. You'll know yours. Yeah, or amrit.coach/values, either domain will take you there. Discover your values, 20 minutes. Just like I consider and go, I'm connection, I'm contribution, I'm celebration, you'll know yours, and you'll be able to make decisions. Like Mind Valley came up to me 5 years ago and go, oh, we want to build a coaching program. And I'm like, cool, because COVID happened. We were doing a bunch of training and seminars all over the world. I was having a great time doing it. But then it was like, COVID, what are we going to do? Let's build a coaching program. Do you want to be our coach? And I was like, I went, do I get to connect to people? Yeah, all over the world. Do I get to contribute? Absolutely. It's the exact kind of contribution I want to do. Will there be celebration? Yeah, because of coaching, people live life in a really full, rich, voluptuous kind of way. It's like, yeah, this is gregarious. Let's do this. Yes, I'm in. And they're like, you don't want to talk terms, prices, contracts. And I'm like, we will talk that, but I'm a yes. Like I'm a wholehearted yes. And I'm sure that'll all flush out. And they're like, what? And it took me like literally 30 seconds to make a life decision on what I was going to do with my career at that point. And they were just like, what the, but it was easy because it stacked up on my values. Yeah. Now, connection, contribution, celebration, when I look back at when I was out of career misalignment at times and I was having an existential crisis about it, there was careers that I was in that weren't aligned to my values, and they were painful to be a part of. And the lack of meaning, the lack of purpose, and just feeling like you were cog in the wheel, like that existential mental health crisis, I totally understand. So many people, like one that I think was like, I've lost the stat. I'm speaking from the heart. But I think it was like 61% or something like that are dissatisfied with their job. That's a significant number of people that are just going into work not enjoying what they're doing. And I just don't feel like that needs to be the case. But there's just a lack of self-awareness that if we can understand ourselves a little bit better, we can understand where it is we want to be rather than what society's telling us we need to be. And that all stands on top of your values. So as a coach, as a podcaster, as a speaker, do I get to connect? Wholeheartedly, yes. There's a lot of connection. Yeah, I'm connecting with you guys here, the audience here today, individually, who you are listening in, absolutely. Tuning in here with Michael as well. There's a lot of connection. Contribution, absolutely. Hopefully, this is contributing and inspiring for you. And celebration. Hopefully, you leave this a little bit fuller, richer, having tuned in and listened to it. Yeah, and so that's what podcasts are like. That's what coaching goes even deeper on the connection, right? And connection from public speaking. It's like a whole room. There's like my being is just like I'm effervescent in those spaces. Like the water is bubbling up, right? Because it's just so much connection. So learning to facilitate, okay, these are my values. How do they show up, and how do I build a life around my values? Because that's where my soul's expression can just emanate into my 3D material being with the most amount of grace and ease. And actually, I sort of see it like, a photographer lining up, the light to the aperture of the camera and just kind of getting it just right to take the perfect picture. That's what we're trying to do, right? Like you've got your personality, you want to line it up to your soul. And then from there, just the amount of flow that pours in, the light that pours in, pardon the pun, and just the ease and grace with which life unfolds. That's the mission. That's everything. Long response to what the Inspired Evolution and my coaching is here, Touchwood, to facilitate.
Good response. And another healer quote for you, because this one's short. A true healer kindles the power already within another. So, and you don't have to comment on that one. I'll ask you the big picture eternal question that we've all wondered for thousands of years. Cafes, over tea, doesn't matter what country we've asked this. What's the fabric of the universe? Is it love? How do you like to describe that? What do you know?
Ooh, is it love? It's a great question to ask, and I think every person should ask it because ultimately each one of us should give a different response to it because each of us is that manifestation of curiosity from it. Like no two of us are superfluous to the grand design of it all. We might look similar, some of us, and some of us very different, right? But we're meant to be different. So each of us is meant to give a different response to that. Again, because I do think the thread underneath it all is curiosity. Is that nature of like that is so fundamental to the tenet of the universe. For me in particular, connection, yeah, love feels like an easy go-to, right? So I sort of see like a Wi-Fi symbol, pardon me, but follow along with me for a sec. And the outer band, that sort of the biggest one, like the rainbow kind of band bit, is connection, right? So it's like we can connect, yeah. And then underneath that band, the next one is love. And then at the heart of it, it's like unity. We are all one, right? So if I had to rebrand spirituality, which spirituality doesn't need a rebranding, it's everything. But I just label it unity, right? Anything that unifies, makes you whole is spiritual, right? Anything that sort of fragments you further, I would argue, not spiritual, right? So really simple in there. So from my lens, unity, us being able to experience ourselves as one, I think is, ultimately coming back, and then love. And so I think, yes, absolutely. Is love a big part of, well, I'm curious about myself to want to see my own beauty, right? And that's where like you start following into the I Ching, and, the first cab out of the rank of the 64 is beauty. It's like you want to witness the beauty, right? So it's like, hey, I'm lovable. I like, and learning to love itself. If it wasn't fragmented, it wouldn't be able to build that connection with self to love. And you'll notice I'm using the word connection because that's obviously the value and the lens at which through I see the world, right? So for me, yes, like it's trying to connect to itself so it can love itself, so it can be whole again, to understand more and more of itself. Touch wood, which is really trippy. It doesn't make sense to the mind, but the heart knows, the truth with a capital T. So my response, yes, absolutely, love is in there, and it facilitates greater levels of connection, so that it can experience itself more and more whole, and more unified. But I'm conscious that that may not be everybody else's response, and they're absolutely entitled to their response as well. And if they had the same response as me, one of us is a superfluous to the grand design of it all. So I highly encourage you find your own response, right? Like, why are we here? That is a really sacred question. And you answering that question, again, yeah, coaching is such a gift. I'm so honored to be able to support people on such a path. Touch wood.
And I'm going to add one more quote just because as you were talking, I was like, I've got one more quote that can put a ribbon on it. In the end, love is what shows us life in different colors. So all those different responses to the original question, a little bit of love, they all fit in
Yeah.
the basket nicely. Okay, back to Inspired Evolution, the show. Just when did it start? How many episodes? And then here's the tricky question. Which guest has left you not rattled, but just shaking your head all the way to this day? Who do you flash back to the most? And then the separate follow-up question is, someone's rented a Pacific island. It is stocked. There's electricity. It's comfortable. What 3 guests from your show are you inviting to the island?
Oh, to
It
the
will not be
island.
videotaped. You can be philosophical. You can just be like, no, I really just wanted to hang out with them and water ski. But so first, who left you rippling? How big's the show? How many episodes? How long you've been doing it? And then who are the 3 you would pick for just a week-long retreat on a Pacific island that's stocked? We're not asking you to build fires
Okay.
or hunt
You got
food,
it. We're not trying to
not
get off the
survival.
island. We're just trying to have a great. We're trying to have a luau.
Yeah.
Okay, so show. Okay, so the Inspired Evolution was started 7 years ago, as of 3 weeks ago. So 7 years and 3 weeks. We just recently celebrated the 7 year, and for those that know, like 7 is a pretty special number for for cycles to be on. So we've stepped into a whole new cycle with the show. It's been quite the journey, my goodness. An episode a week for the last 7 years. Outside of my wife, it's been the most steady relationship. I've been my wife for 13 years. Touch wood, been married for 3, yeah, something like that. So yeah, it's been a real gift and an honor. One thing I will just quickly say about it is, for the longest while, I was looking for something or someone to show up for me. And I call it savior syndrome. Maybe it's a guru complex because I'm Indian. I don't know what it is, but for the like, I was hoping that at some point I knew I was stuck and my life wasn't what I wanted it to be, and I was hoping someone would come and save me. And then at a certain point there was a pivot where I was like, oh, maybe I just need to find the right vehicle, right, to come help save me. Like, and I didn't know what vehicle meant, but it was like something that I could put myself in, and it would go further. It would be enriched by me being in it, and I would be enriched by being in it as well. Like there would be this symbiosis between the two things. And the podcast actually emerged in the darkest time of my life. Like I was, Inspired Evolution came from this place of like, there's all these people that I'm inspired by, and I'm not able to access that frequency. I'm not able to live life in alignment to who I know I am. I didn't have the languaging around them, and I was like, I'm stuck. Like I'm so stuck. Back to the coaching piece. And it's like, I'm inspired though. Like I can feel my inspiration pouring through my soul. Like inspired. It's like, yeah, I can ramble on about the word inspired forever, but it's soul deep. It's like it helps you draw breath. It's not motivation. It's not external. It's internal, right? It's like certain people you look at and you just go, like, some people look at like your work and just be like, oh yeah, angels, I get it. But some people are like, angel, and you drew in a breath, like it animate, like that brought in prana, like you literally are spiritually animated by that, like you're inspired, right? And so that, I could see the Inspired Evolution. So for me, weekly interviews, interviewing people about how they were, mostly in this frame of like spiritual entrepreneurship, ultimately living life on their own terms. And I think that was where the engineer kind of met the spiritual Amrit. Those were the two things. And so every week for the last 7 years, and I think it's been about 12 months now, maybe just over, where we up the ante to 2 shows a week. So I think we're about almost 500 episodes in. I think, please don't quote me on that. It's a lot. It's been a lot of episodes. So we're about 500 episodes in, which also puts a massive asterisk on the response to the next part of the question, because 500 episodes, almost, I would say 400 different guests. It's been quite the journey. Um, yeah, what else do I want to say about the show? Yeah, it's one thing I will say actually is you mentioned at the beginning, and this is just a little bit of me inspiring other people along on their journey. You mentioned like 5.4 million downloads. We're closing in on 6. My birthday's in about a month. Touchwood will be at 100,000 subscribers roughly around that point. Nice little Touchwood birthday gift for myself from the audience and the tribe and everybody that's tuning in the universe. Touchwood, so grateful. Touchwood. Um, the key thing in there was just feeling into this. This is hard to articulate, but I'm hoping people can get the gist of it. Like, we're at 5.4 million views, right? Let's just say that. And 4 million of those came this year. Yeah. The other 500,000 came last year. So we're already at 4.5. And so the 5 years prior to that, all of it amounted to like 900,000 views roughly, right? Don't quote me on these numbers, but this is roughly like high level, and it paints what I'm trying to communicate, which is, yeah, the metaphor of the bamboo is always very present for me. I still feel like we're just getting started, as you said, like I still very much the energy of like, we're just getting started 7 years in. But there's, the bamboo tree, it spends like so many, I think it's something ridiculous, like 5 years or something growing under the ground and not getting anywhere, or like 5 months or something growing under the ground, not going anywhere. And then like it just shoots up. I think it's 5 years and 5 months, right? So 5 years under the ground, not doing, and you see nothing. And then within 5 months, it's like it grows like 10 meters. And so it's like, did it grow 10 meters in 5 months? Or was it like 5 years in 5 months? Do you know what I mean? So that metaphor has always been very present, that, most people step into wanting to create something online or something like that, and don't create something because you think it'll be good for you. Do something that you enjoy the process. Like, I just was inspired to evolve, connecting with individuals such as yourself and just doing that every week. And now there's, the show's kind of getting somewhere. And it's like, yeah, that's great as well. But what's great is the conversations, and that just tends to sort of then feed into, oh yeah, more and more people are tuning in. I'm so grateful that that's happening, because it's enabling more and more things in my life. But ultimately, it's about the process, not the outcome. But also just an insight into the process is, for 5 years there, you're not going to be rewarded the way that you think you will. And what is it that you really want to show up for and champion in this world? And that's where getting soul deep about it really helps, because you're going to show up for it regardless, right? You step into flow, you're animated. I just felt good doing the conversations, Touchwood. And then the show has just kind of subsequently grown from that point. But I think it's important to recognize 5.4 million, 4.5 just this year. Yeah. And then 500,000 the year before. And then everything else stacked into the, so it's like this growth curve. And Touchwood, it just shows the power of momentum as well, and consistency. I really invite people into that. Okay, so that's the show. A little bit around it. I could talk about it forever. I've been talking about it for 7 years. Noteworthy episodes, so many, man. This is I always struggle with this question.
Who's rippled? Who keeps you up at night? Not at all, but you're up in the middle of the night and you flash back to that episode. Who left you just still shaking your head? You were like, that was something.
Yeah, there was a seismic shift in a particular episode when, and yeah, they've all shifted me. I can't say they don't, because the way I look at the world is like each moment is an opportunity to, evolve and transform. But there was something really potent about the episode we did. Like, I really love the recent episode I did with Marianne Williamson. We talked about Jesus, his lost years, where he went, and Jesus as a metaphysical concept rather than Jesus, from the church. And, Marianne Williamson, incredible teacher. So that was a really fun episode, and really deep and really profound, connecting people into Christ consciousness, and what it really means to eat from the body of Christ, and what that really. Anyway, but the episode prior to that, she was literally running for her presidential campaign, And it was like a couple of days after she had just pulled the plug on saying, actually, this isn't for me anymore. And so I think she was in a really ripe place for a really deep introspective conversation about love and politics and the 3D and the metaphysics of everything. And I was at this really interesting place because COVID was happening in the world at the time. And more people were like, you could see people, more and more of the flowers were sort of closing in on themselves. They were going in for like the deep hibernation. And one of the things that was the takeaway from that episode was, it wasn't her quote. It was a Martin Luther. No, it was Amanda. I'm going to butcher it. Pardon me. I can't attribute the quote to the right place, but she said this, which is love. So power without love, yeah, is corrupt. Yeah. So power without love corrupts, and I think we can see that in society, right? There's lots of places where people are striving for power. There may not be love, and it feels corrupt. Touch wood. She said, love without power is anemic. And that was a real, yeah, that was really huge for me. That was really, really huge for me. Something really shifted in which it gave permission for more of the masculine energy to show up, and the drive, because I think so many of us in the spiritual sense are like, and I do believe that we can meditate our way to peace. Absolutely. If more and more of us meditate, like if there was a moment where just like the whole world just shut their eyes for a moment, quantum question, does the world continue to exist? Anyway, but in there, like the world would drop into greater levels of peace. Like you've seen it, like, Buddhist meditators move into a town, crime rates drop. So I totally believe in that. But then also there's this activist in Marianne, which I think really speaks to like a big part of my being, and maybe that's being a Sikh, where it's sort of got this identity of the warrior saint, right? So it's the saint, you use your pen and the piece 3 times, and then only after that, if you really need to, do you step into your warriorship and you pick up the sword. But in there was this invitation to kind of go, I think a lot of us can see that in the spirituality realm, some of us drop into just, oh yeah, like it'll be okay, or it's all love and roses. And the takeaway for me was, no, no, no. If war is being waged, then peace must also be waged. You've got to wage peace. Like peace doesn't just happen. Yeah, you've got to wage peace. Like you've got to stand up for what you believe in. And touch wood, for me, it may sound like, oh, he's just having chats. Maybe, but these are the gifts that I've got, touch wood, that I feel like I can show up the best and find the most flow and just champion positivity, champion peace, and just be like, hey, we're infinite. Like we're one. What are we arguing about? Like, can we just celebrate the differences, right? Like, and so again, that's I'm finding. And so for her, it was that was really huge, allowing like, you need not just love, but you do need power. And don't be afraid of your own power, your personal power, right? Like step into power, invite power in, but don't let it become a power without love thing, because that is corrupt and that's what you're afraid of. But then don't be so afraid of power that you just don't step into it at all, right? And that's where it's like, yes, absolutely love, but then also bring the power, the masculine force along, and together create something really remarkable, touch wood. And watching her embodying, the race that she was on to be presidential, and I was just like, man, she's powered by love, and yet she's stepping into her power and going for it. That was just poof, yeah, that this just spoke volumes, absolute volumes to me. Touch wood, that still echoes till this day.
3 guests for an island, and it's just you have to hang out, but you still think some expansion is going to happen just by proximity.
Oh yeah, okay. It's a fun time. Okay, so we're gonna have a
Time,
ball
not a
of
game
fun.
show, not Survivor.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is really tough. I want to bring at least 15 people, at least, and that's being like tight. That's tight. Like I'm culling a lot. 3. Okay, just randomly. Let's just allow spirit to guide the question. So Gary Zukav's definitely there. There's just like if I had to pick a mentor in life, just his work, just bang, we're in. Touchwood, he uses the word soul personality, and the seed of the soul, and everything that I do just lives in that framework. Touchwood so well. and yeah, just the way he approaches life. Yeah, it'd just be fun. It'd just be fun with one of those people that you just have a really deep connection with, that you can just be like, hey, yeah, I could spend all day, every day hanging out with you, and it wouldn't be an effort. Because, after a while, it goes like, Wilson! We don't want to end up in that place. So I think Gary Zukav and I, touch wood, could hang bang for a while. I think that'd be dope. For some reason, RJ Spina keeps popping up in my head. I didn't expect that would be one, but RJ Spina, I think just because he'd be a wild one. Like, he'd keep the party going. He's yeah, metaphysically completely like downloading everything from the universe, but at the same time just the ascended masters, but then at the same time just yeah, just not afraid to have a little fun with the human avatar and the body that we're embodied in. So I think that would keep the celebration vibes going. um and then I think, yeah, I think it's Aaron Abkey. um and I think just because he's my age, but we're also like into similar things. Um, if I could invite a guest that I haven't had on, it'd probably be Matthias Stefano, because he
For
can
sure.
like astral travel into places. Then we wouldn't really be stranded on an island. We could probably piggyback and kind of go project into places, and that'd be really dope. But yeah, we haven't had him on the show yet, so I can't give that response. So in the meantime, yeah, I think Aaron, having someone my age around and just us, bantering around, chopping wood, carrying water, doing some of the fun blokey sort of stuff would be kind of dope. Touch wood, not that Gary and RJ wouldn't be into that stuff, but they're a little bit older. They're in their statesmanhood sort of years of their life. They can watch us build fires for them. Yeah.
Well, we've hit that part of the show where I will light some sage, blow it to you in Australia from Texas and the good old US of A. Maybe we can send a little bit of the sage up into the universe for
Mm.
Mateus Di Stefano to join your show shortly.
Looking
We'll see
forward to
what
it.
happens. But if anyone hasn't seen the show, hasn't done this, if there are no limits in life, maybe there are no limits. You knew it as a kid, a little adulting kicked in along the way, some thinking. I still want to read a Gary Zukav quote to you as I'm lighting the sage to buy time.
Mm.
Anybody who needs a reset, breathe 3 times, exhale like a whale. But I do have a phrase, setting your intent. Ask the universe angels to get you out of your head into your heart. I'm going to light some sage. Some people who are super intuitive start tasting it the second I start lighting it. There's no smoke yet. Here's the Gary Zukav quote to just go, you change the way that you shape the light, which is flowing through you by changing your consciousness. And I wrote big wow next to that quote a while ago, but big wow.
Mm.
Here's the sage, and I'm lighting it, and you only have to leave your eyes on the smoke, this fire, the sage, whatever we're talking about here. It's everything's energy. And allow, red-tailed hawk feather. And if anybody wants extra, ask for flowers, ask for an ocean smell wherever you're not. If you're looking at Baja, you're in Mexico, go ahead and ask for like Fiji, Bora Bora, not boring, Seychelles, wherever. And are you already getting some sage in Australia?
A little bit.
A little
A little bit. I
bit?
can see it on the corner of my screen actually.
Okay. Um, and any flowers?
I'm getting ocean spray actually.
Yay. We'll snub this out. Okay. I had another question for you, but let me just get this out. Otherwise, it's going to look like there's a fire in the room. Give me 1 second. Where are you today on your journey since it's constant expansion and growth? What have you had to let go of in the last year or two? And how now do you realize that letting go just opened up more playing fields? You can be outstanding in your field with your sunflowers, having even more fun.
Mm. Yeah, letting go of control is consistently a thing. Yeah, it's consistently a thing. And it's interesting because as a life coach, you set up plans, So it's like, hey, first we do the discovery work, and then we sort of, build the mindset, and then we build the plan, right? Those are the three key steps, right? You align, you believe, then you create. So we get you aligned, we believe, and then in the creatorship, there's a lot of control in that space. I can feel the sage dancing in the room. um, yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you. And so we're creating, right? And so in that creator space, there's a lot of control, a lot of plan. But one of the occupational hazards of being a coach is kind of going, okay, this is my plan. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's where I love how you set intentions as well, because going from goal setting, which is like this is specifically the metric and everything that I'm going to hit from a KPI point of view, key performance indicator, or a SMART goal, specific, measurable, right? Like, so all of that sort of stuff, to, okay, like maybe it's, I need $100,000 as an income by the end of the year. Or you set the intention for prosperity and it can show up in however which way it wants to, right? And it's so much more open. Now, it requires a level of spiritual diligence, to sort of stay connected to the intention ongoingly for the year. Whereas having a goal, you can see it on a piece of paper and your mind will just latch in and, it feeds into your subconscious. Both are useful. But on the journey where I'm at, you're asking now is, yeah, the contemplations that have been sitting with me, like I had RJ on the podcast recently, and one of the things that he was sharing and that really resonated for exactly where I'm at the journey right now is, even when you feel into surrender, right, and we step into self-love, which is an infinite body of work, right, to learn to love thyself. We talked about curiosity, the universe is trying to love itself, touch wood. So in there, what we've got is the thing within self-love then kind of comes into self-acceptance, right? So like the first place people sort of go, okay, well, maybe I can't love myself. Maybe I can learn to accept myself. That's where I can start a dialogue with myself. And he didn't quite say it this way, but this was my takeaway. So when you start to see, and this, he goes, accept, feel into the word accept, 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 feel the frequency of it. I kind of feel like a pyramid, right? Sort of doing this, accept, 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 like this, putting boundaries on something. And the takeaway was acceptance. It's like if something's happening over there and I don't really resonate with it, but I can learn to accept it, right? It's like I can learn to tolerate. So the word acceptance is like, I can learn to tolerate this. Yeah, it's kind of the frequency that acceptance is carrying. And so in the space of surrender, it's like, it's a good start. I'm not demonizing acceptance, but I do think it gets us to a point where it's like, as a frequency, it's closed. You can accept. You can feel that it's closed. Like I'm shutting myself down to allow what's going on over there. And I'm not going to be perturbed by it. But with self-love, do you just want to be able to, like, like I can tolerate myself, like that, it starts to get a bit this toleration energy. Whereas then he goes, feel into the frequency of allow. And you've used this consistently throughout the show today, and your other pieces, you use this word a lot, Michael. Allow, and you can just feel how open it is. Right? Allow is just open and nebulous. Like it just has this bottoming out effect. Like allow, and it's like self-allowance. Like, can you just allow yourself to be yourself? And even you just took a very deep breath. Like it's just, it just has that frequency, and so it's that open. So for me at the moment, the real is like letting go of the control and allowing more and more. The interesting piece for me right now is also, and it's been like this for the last almost 3 years, so 2.5 years, is trying to, and I know this sounds really like privileged is the word, but I'm trying to do less and less, but I'm doing more and more. Don't get me wrong, I'm doing more and more, but in less and less avenues, right? So like before it was like coaching for Mind Valley, coaching for Eckhart Tolle, like, coaching for the Inspired Evolution pod. Like I was doing 9 different things. It all felt like, the work that I was here to do, speaking, coaching, podcasting, but for various different outfits and very different hats. And, the metric, it was just a lot. And it's a lot of places for your mind to be. And a really grounded book in that space that came to me about 2 years ago was Essentialism. And it's like, just if you can just focus on 1 or 2 things. And so allowing a little bit of control in that space to kind of go, hey, these are going to be my vehicles once again, right? Like I'm just going to double down on the podcast and the Inspired Evolutions one-to-one coaching. Yeah. I know it makes no sense to not have like a group coaching offering where lots of people can connect to me one-on-one and makes it affordable for them, and, they can connect in, but it's like, I just want to become like, and having coached 350 different people plus one-on-one now, I've gotten pretty good at one-on-one coaching, and I just want to do the things that I do really well, world class, and just, just make a stamp, make them, just kind of go boom. And so then allowing that, whatever comes in that space, and sometimes that means I've got to coach such and such, I've got to coach such and such for such and such a period of time, or for such and such a period of time, and just allowing in those avenues now. So still trying to find the dance and the balance between control and allow, but softening into more and more of allowing life to guide the journey. And I think ultimately that is the path of surrender, which is a whole path unto itself. And just to put some context, again, the engineer in me can't help but do this for everybody. like it may be like you're at a point right now where you're like allow like surrender, because I remember going along to retreats, like we guide retreats, but like early on we were going to a retreat where I was a participant and people were setting intentions, and this was me like 7 years ago, and some of them were setting the intention for surrender, and I was like, I don't want to sound like this, but I was like, what's wrong with you? Come on, man up. Like, what do you surrender? Like, stand up in your power. Like, stand up in your power. Yeah. And so it's very interesting because there are 4 levels of consciousness, right? You've got victimhood, then you've got the achiever, level 2, then you've got level 3, which is the flower. I call them the surrenderer or the flower. Still trying to land on the right word.
Or
And the
the
fourth
flower,
one,
or the flower.
oh, the flower. Flower's really good. I like that. The flower, surrendering, opening. Thank you. And then the fourth one is, unity consciousness. You're one. And so the initial level of consciousness in life is happening to me. I'm a victim of life, which many people we know live in that space. And sometimes I digress into that space given enough stress and pressure. Then there's level 2 consciousness, right? Which is life is happening by me. And this is where we set goals and we achieve things. And I'm in that space, kind of looks at someone going through and is like, come on, man, pick yourself up by your own bootstraps. Let's go, and so that's level 2. But level 3 is like, hey, like, how do I surrender? How do I flow? Like life is happening as me, like it's emerging. Sorry, life is happening for me. Yeah, that's level 3. Life is happening for me. So how do I allow what's happening for me to happen more and more for me, and me get myself out of the way? Right? It's like, stop trying to do so many things. That was achievement mode. Yeah, that was life happening by me. But now life is happening for me. What wants to present, and how do you facilitate what your soul wants to express? And then level 4, life is happening as me. Yeah, and so that's, you are one, you are it, you're in that unity state of consciousness. So yeah, that's my current dance at the moment, is in that level 3 space. Is like, how do I continue to allow life to happen more and more for me, touch wood, and get out of my own way, and then yeah, just relax the bits where it's like the mind naturally wants to kind of go, let's do this, let's do it like this, and this is how it's going to be, and this is what it's going to look like, and it's like, sure, but that's also a limited worldview. It could be anything, and that's where your work is so incredible, Michael. Like, just bringing people back into the heart, the openness to sort of feel into, hey, just relax that mind, just come back into your heart, and feel into the expansiveness, because yeah, sure, it could be that, but like that's just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more. Touch wood.
And speaking of so much more, I have the tiniest little fun about compassion, kindness to all statement written by hand there from an angel. We're going to read that in a second, get your reaction. It's going to take you somewhere. But first, to just do a little extra, it's not just foam with a piece of black construction paper around it. You can use the blue sky. I'll show you my energy, my light. You don't have to show me yours. Just one way here. It's in your heart, auras, chakras, the force from Star Wars. I forgot to do this before the show. Whoops. But this is like 5 seconds, so it's easy. You get to see the flow light between my fingers, Celestine Prophecy style, this way, the movie. But I had a guest on who was around in the 70s who said, no, we were doing this in the 70s before that movie existed. And then to top it all off, in India, not every part of India, but they do it this way. It doesn't matter which way you do it. I got 2 fingers. I got a lot of light to show. I got a dad joke I'll tell. Yeah, it'll be Bert and Ernie, Sesame Street. Nobody needs to know the characters, but if you're laughing, you're letting go. Here it goes. I got 2 fingers. You'll see a flow of light between my fingers. And Bert and Ernie, Sesame Street. Bert offers Ernie ice cream. What's Ernie say? He says, sherbet. And just see a filament wisp of light between my fingers. It's white, gold, green, yellow. Breathe through the mouth, relax. If anybody at home needs help, ask angels, universe to get you to your heart. What do you see, Amrit, between my fingers?
Orange filament.
Oh, awesome. And then if you want to go groovy, cool, wild, crazy, Shakti, prana, ask Krishna, ask Jesus, Mary, Muhammad, Buddha, angels to add a butterfly or fireworks or flares, a heart. If you want to get any extra, you don't have to say it out loud. You can give a thumbs up, or you can say what you're seeing. If you get any extra light in addition to the orange, are you getting anything else? I'll tell one more dad joke. Why did the rabbit fall down that well? He didn't see that well. And I've been complimenting your laugh since the last time we saw each other years ago. I love your laugh. I'm so happy. Are you getting any other extra light just because you let go that 1%?
It's yeah, I can see the aura of the filament floating around. Yeah, it's
primo. All done. Okay, here's your quote.
Trippy, man. Yeah.
Yeah, this is an easy quote. This is fun, but it's often going to get overlooked. But I feel like Marianne would have talked about it. You would have talked about it next week.
Mm.
Here it is from an angel named Dale, who coached an Olympic athlete from the late 70s, 80s, who won a lot of golds. That was not the point. It was to help that person follow their unique life path, which we all have one of
Mhm.
those. And Amrit's going to help you dust off everything and get realigned again to grow, expand, and get on that path. Here it is. Sometimes the person next to you or a stranger just needs validation via love and compassion. A smile changes any moment. So too does laughter or a few kind words. Be compassionate to all. Do it.
Yeah. There was a moment in my life where I'd just been diagnosed with depression, and to put it lightly, I was apathetic. I wasn't really going to check out, but I was apathetic as to whether I was here or whether I wasn't, whether I stayed or whether I didn't. Um, and there was a person in my life, touch wood, seriously, yeah, touch so much wood, like that believed in me to make it through the period that I was going through. And deeper than that, saw me beyond my circumstance and was like, I can see the real you. And like wasn't even phased by all the I don't want to call it, the ick and the gunk and everything that I got kicked on with the depression. It was just like, I see you, you're gonna figure this out. And we can figure this out. Like you've got the space, to do this. And just that one person's belief, what it meant when I was completely apathetic. Like whether I stayed or go, it didn't matter. I had no belief in myself at that point, which is quite a harrowing place for someone like myself to be, like no self belief. And to have someone else believe in you for you and that to guide you through that period, and then you pop out on the other side and then you can rebuild yourself is inarguably one of the foundational pieces why I became a coach. Because not everybody can believe it. Like we all go through periods, yeah, and having someone kind of be able to see and kind of go, "Yo, like I see you, like it's already happened. Let's just do it," you know. Um, yeah, yeah, it it really compels me and drives me. So yeah, thank you. Very deep quote. Really took me back to that place, and yeah, just speaks to the foundations of just I guess ultimately, we want to things that give us so much we want to share with others, and that belief that someone carried in me, being able to support other people or believe in them, and then they get there, touch wood, and then they learn to believe in themselves, and then poof, they're off. It's yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. Touch wood.
Right. And that was incredible. That was beautiful. We've got a lightning round, just two unconditional love figures from the universe, Joy and Angel. We did this before the show, and Krishna. I'll put up two representations. One's a photo of an angel. People can put their hand up and feel what they feel. Doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter if it's 2030, you're in Germany, Tokyo, New Zealand. Just allow, back to the theme from two chapters
Mm,
back. Um, Here's Joy first. Amrit, if you don't mind putting your hand
mm.
up, feel what you can feel. Have her privately just mention something, get a whoosh down your back, and then if there's something you can share out loud from her to you for all of us as a reminder, that'd be great.
She's present in everybody's cells, and she's available to everybody.
I love it. And get a whoosh or something to say thank you for everything you've been sharing because it's been incredible.
Mm.
And Krishna, I've got a really classic, I don't know what to call it, illustration drawing. So it is what it is. Here's Krishna.
Hey.
Yay. And just get something private and then something that, if you don't mind, that we can share out loud. But if you also don't mind getting a temple incense from 10 meters behind you, as if you're in the thickest, highest vibe part of India, the jungles of India, the highest vibe. You can hear a tiger roar. That's the Divine Mother's tiger on the wall there. Action on everyone's team. If you want to stick a left hand out into the open part of the room and feel the tiger fur, that'll freak you out a little bit. It'll be the hands, it'll be shampooed, soft tiger fur. You can put your hand out in the room and feel the tiger walk by. But meanwhile, Krishna will have something for you, and you can catch the temple incense coming in, and it should go right to your feet. Foundation.
Mm.
And what'd you get?
To share with others is don't be afraid. Um, and this sounds a bit cheesy, but sacred wisdom will actually set you free. He didn't say actually. Sacred wisdom will set you free. Don't be afraid. Sacred wisdom will set you free is the download. Touch wood that I received. Conscious it sounds a bit cheesy, but that's the download.
No, that's powerful. One last item. I'll put my hand up in Texas. You're in Australia. Feel the vibe, but only the highest, how do I say this? Love and above. Not my bill paying thinking side. Is my team winning? I got to go back to thinking in 2 hours. Just love, supported by angels. Ask Joy to make this super nice and groovy, but the same thing for you, only your highest intent. Feel what you can feel. Tell us what you're feeling. If it's a little sparkle, a little warmth.
You know that you know when you eat a it's like an effervescent crackle. How do I describe that? What is that word? What is that word?
Here, I'll
You know
whoosh
when
you
eat
rainbow light.
those bubbly chocolates that have the little, oh god damn it, I can't get the word. That okay, yep, I've got it. But it's like a little snap crackle pop.
Oh, I love it. Enjoy. You're gonna get rainbow light right hand, but we're gonna blame angels or blame Canada. Don't blame me. I'm gonna whoosh once only. I usually do it 3 times, but once is fine. Breathe extra, allow. People can feel light up their back. Is it the Hindu chakras, the spine, the Kundalini Express? Yeah. So here comes the whoosh. I've got a microphone down here. I'll also blow. Catch a little Hawaii to make it fun. I hope everybody likes Hawaii. Kanapali, Wailea. Go big. Here it goes. And Amrit, this one you've got to use your words on, because no one's going to be able to relate if they didn't just do it. And if they didn't, they can play it back. They got to breathe extra, exhale like a whale. Just we'll use the word surrender just a little bit. Surrender to the moment, allow, and feel what you can feel. Don't judge. What'd you get?
I felt the wave just come through the room and circle back out.
Nice. Okay, you are a show host. You've done a gajillion of these. I think it's like 500. You've had millions of views. You know what you're doing. Close us out on the show. What do we all need to remember? What's a daily tip to just our humanness, how to embrace it, how to say it's okay no matter what's going on, and then how to rise above anything?
Yeah, the key in there to carry with you is presence through it all. And it's so much easier said than done, but architecting moments where you can be present. You know, even today, like I've got a 6-month-old, yeah. So my meditation practice is, you know, say like it's not as sitting and being present oriented as it was, but me spending time looking into like this little bubba's hands and feet and eyes, like, you know, and he's always present to the point where if I pick up my phone to check something, he's staring at me and I'm realizing, oh, he's watching me build a relationship with a rectangle. Like what is going like, and I just come back, you know. So presence is available to you everywhere. And obviously I'm in a portal with little kids where, you know, that is right there, but your pets are always present, always in the present moment. Walks in nature, and even just taking moments out. Like my Gene Keys coaching guide and the big body of work there is the art of contemplation, and you can't really contemplate much unless you pause. And one of the biggest things, so many things I took away from the Gene Keys, but one of the biggest things in there was just to pause. Like every now and then your brain will be going on this, and you're doing a bunch of work, and a lot of us are busy. but just taking a moment to just kind of go, you know what, just poof, I'm gonna just take a sec, and you just take a sec to just kind of go, where's my head at? Where's my day at? How am I going? What's my state? You can ask any one of those questions, or you can just stare at something. Like I could literally, after the end of this conversation, just stare at this camera and just go, oh, I never noticed that that part there had like this grippy thing going on for it. You know, like just bring yourself into the present moment. Um, it is it sounds really straightforward. It is the bedrock of anything you really want to build when it comes to self awareness, any sort of spiritual practice. It's everything. If you're going to change the world, you're going to change it from the present moment. If you're going to change yourself, you're going to change yourself from the present moment, not being anxious or worried about the future, not worried about what happened in the past. So I think that is really the punchline. Yeah, I know people probably want something more tangible to take away, but if you can really grasp the essence of that, I think therein lies a lifetime's worth of work, and then maybe more. But presence really is the foundation piece for it all. Um, yeah. What I'm hoping you're taking away is also if it is really difficult to be present in your life because of the things that you're invested in, spending a lot of time and energy, like, you know, doing things that, you know, maybe your personality has been hijacked and, you know, you're doing all these things for the man or for the machine or wherever it feels like you're plugged into the matrix. It doesn't have to feel that way. Yeah, touch wood. And if your mental health is slipping and you can feel like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that comes with that, just reminder, health is purpose, purpose is health, and kind of maybe just needs to change into mental health is purpose and purpose is mental health, but you get the point. Um, Come along, discover your values. inspiredevolution.com/values. Get your values. Yeah, get really clear on the pillars of who you are and where your soul meets your personality. They're the pillars of the temple that is you, and that's the personality you. And the soul is the life force energy that flows through you. Back to the Gary Zukav conversation, right? And so in there, just discover your values. 20 minutes from now, you'll be super clear. You'll be able to make life decisions. You'll be able to see where you're out of alignment because things aren't stacked in on your values. You'll be able to foresee opportunities, even just being aware of it. Your whole trajectory is going to change, right? Because you're now aware more of yourself and what is in alignment for you. And this is where you'll feel the most present. Like in today's conversation, we've gone like way over than I initially anticipated, but I'm present. We're doing our thing, right? And it doesn't matter, right? Because we're present and I'm connecting, I'm contributing, I'm celebrating. We're all good. Yeah, it's all good. Whereas if it was something like, oh, you know, can you continue digging a hole for extra amount of time? It's like I'm not averse to digging a hole, but you know, I'm not in flow digging a hole because I'm not called to do that. Now there are people that would be doing that in flow doing that. So discover your values, and that will help you find how you can architect even more presence into your life from a zoomed out meta level. And again, that's the name of the book. Hopefully coming out next year if I get pull my socks up. Meta flow. Yeah. So discover your values. Go check it out. inspiredevolution.com/values, amrit.coach/values. And the thing for me is I always get really surprised, and this is me just giving you a little coach friendly nudge, which is you listen to this conversation, right? It's probably been about an hour that people are tuned in. And yet 20 minutes can give you something so tangible to take away, and yet you won't go do it. That stuff just, I don't want to say irks me, but kind of blows me away. It really does. It's like, huh? Like 20 minutes, you could know your values as clearly as I know mine: connection, contribution, celebration. What are your marching orders from your soul? What are you here to experience in this lifetime? Meaning, purpose. It's all there waiting for you. I highly advise you go do it. Yep.
Amrit Sandhu from Melbourne, Australia, coming to us, show host, coach, transformation coach, healer, helping people like realign, expand, get going with their lives, their unique life path. Thank you so much for being on Angels, Positivity, and Love. Total treat. I love this show. I really liked having you on.
Oh my God, Michael. You know, there's a deep healing that is that occurs when people just can see you. Just being present and seeing someone has so much healing capacity, right? Like, for those that know, I guess you know, touch wood. And just yeah, it has been such a gift and a pleasure and an opportunity to be here. As I said at the beginning, an absolute honor. Just to be seen so deeply for the work that is the inspired evolution of my life's work in the world, and yeah, just your witness of it is it as yeah, the words sort of falter here. It's really deep and really profound. Thank you so much for this gift. I massive fan of your work and what you're doing here, and it means a lot to be seen the way that you've seen what's going on here. So, thank you, really,
Hmm.
from the bottom of my heart. Really
Thank,
appreciate it.
thank you.